Glen Powell's new movie, How to Make a Killing, is here, but it's not the movie I expected, and that's both good and bad, so let's talk about it. So in this movie, we follow a man named Beckett, who is played by Glen Powell, who has been disowned by his family, but once he finds out that he is seventh in line to his family's fortune, he sets out to kill those in front of him to claim it all. But with that said, as always, before we get started, if you're new here, my name is Erin, and I talk all things movies and TV, but really mostly movies, so if you're into that sort of thing, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for me, and while you're at it, hit that like button as well. And of course, if you've already seen the movie, let me know your thoughts on it down below in the comments. But without further ado, let's talk about How to Make a Killing. So jumping right into the good, and the first thing I have here is the only thing in this movie that was exactly what I expected it to be, and that was Glen Powell. Now, I am a big fan of Glen Powell, and I've been shouting his name from the mountaintop, saying that he is Hollywood's next movie star. If he is in a movie, I don't care about the premise or the genre, I am going to see it. And I think he proved that he can be a leading man in The Running Man, even though that movie wasn't the best. But I also think that he continues to prove that he can be that leading man in this movie. Now, I will say for this movie, he is doing his best impersonation of Patrick Bateman. His performance in this movie is kind of a combination of that and what he did in Hitman, and I have to say, it works. He is his typical charming and charismatic self, and he makes it hard for you not to cheer for him, even though his character is doing some pretty terrible things. He is doing all this for his mother, who is actually the one that was cut out of the family for having him, and she dies when he is young. So now that he's older, he's coming back for that inheritance in order to live the life that he thinks his mom wants him to live. But we do get to a certain point in this movie where he seemingly has everything: a good job, a girlfriend, and he looks to be happy. However, he isn't first in line for that inheritance yet, so it brings up the question of how much do you really need to be happy, and also if money truly does buy happiness, or are you already happy with what you have? And that is kind of a common theme throughout this entire movie. But speaking of that relationship, I do want to mention Jessica Henwick, who played his love interest in this movie, and she was great. She had great chemistry with Glen Powell, and their relationship was really the heart of this movie. There was also Margaret Qualley, who was kind of the secret star of the show here. She gives a haunting but also clever performance, as she is able to get you to hate her character more and more as this movie goes on, especially as we approach the end of this movie. You don't really know what her character is up to throughout the movie because she kind of pops in and out of this thing, and you actually start to question why she's even in this movie. But then we get to the ending and you realize why she's in this movie, because she plays a huge part in the way this movie turns out. And it's that ending that's one of the reasons why it's good that this movie was not what I expected it to be. So my next thing for the good is the ending that subverts your expectations in a good way. And to be honest, if it wasn't for the ending of this movie, this probably would have turned out to be pretty underwhelming for me, because it is one of those endings that makes this movie better as a whole. I also think this movie does a great job at setting up that ending as well. This movie starts with Glen Powell in jail, and he kind of goes back and tells us all of the events that led up to him being where he's at. Now, it's hard to talk about the ending without spoiling it, so I guess potential spoiler warning here. If you don't want spoilers, just skip the next like 10 to 15 seconds of this video. But now that I have said that, I will say that Glen Powell's character is not in jail for the reason you may think, and Margaret Qualley's character has a lot to do with that. I just thought that was a really clever way to go with this movie, because it could have ended in a way that you would probably expect a movie like this to end, but it doesn't, and I think it is better for it. Even though this ending is pretty unexpected, it's a satisfying one because it makes sense for our characters. But with that said, let's get into some of the reasons why this movie did not meet my expectations in my mixed and negative. Moving on to the so-so, and the only thing I have here is that I wish this movie went a little bit harder when it came to the kills in this thing. It was fun watching Glen Powell go around and kill different family members, but it also felt like these deaths were pretty tame. Outside of the first kill, and I guess the last one as well, we either don't get to see the kill or it's very quickly glossed over, with Glen Powell explaining what's happening via voiceover, and that just felt very underwhelming thing for me. This movie sells itself on its main theme of eating the rich, but then doesn't really feel like it commits to that all the way when it comes to taking them out. Going into this, I thought we were going to see Glen Powell kill people in fun and creative ways, kind of similar to how Jack Quaid did in Novocaine, where he's kind of this quirky guy who doesn't really know what he's doing, but somehow finds a way to kill all these people. But in this movie, that wasn't the case. He honestly only gets in one legit fight throughout this entire movie, and I guess the best way I can put this is that he is very much a PG version of Patrick Bateman when it comes to this. Now, what we got wasn't terrible. I was just expecting so much more from that aspect of the film. But finally getting into the bad, and the only thing I have here is that outside of Glen Powell's character, I wish we got to go a little deeper into the other characters. I think this movie remained pretty surface level with its side characters. We really didn't get to know any of the family members that he killed. We just got a brief explanation of who they were, and then they were pretty much immediately killed off. I guess that's fine, but some of them were pretty interesting characters, and I just wish we got to spend a little bit more time with them before they got killed off, even if they were terrible people. I mean, we had Topher Grace as a modern day pastor, and that was one of those characters that I definitely wanted to spend a little bit more time with, but we only got one scene with him, and that one scene was the scene that he died in. So as I was watching this movie, I couldn't help but think how this movie would have been as a show where he kills off one person each episode. This would have allowed us to spend more time with some of those family members and not necessarily gloss over each of their deaths like we did in this movie. And it also would have slowed things down and allowed us to explore the morality of what Glen Powell's character is doing, along with going a little bit deeper into his relationship with Jessica Henwick's character. This is still a good movie, but I do wonder if it would have been better as a show. But for my final thoughts, this is a good time. It's carried by a charismatic performance by Glen Powell and has great supporting performances from Margaret Qualley and Jessica Henwick. Even though it doesn't deliver on certain aspects, it has a good twist ending that makes this movie better as a whole. So on my personal tier list, this just makes it into the good for me and is a movie that you should see. Those are my thoughts on How to Make a Killing. Be sure to let me know what you thought of the movie down in the comments, and as always, be sure to like, subscribe, comment. God bless, and I'll see you guys later. Peace. Hey, thanks for watching to the end of the video. Be sure to subscribe, and here's some more cool videos you may like. Alright, that's all I got. Peace.